What's up everybody, welcome back to another editing tutorial. On the last video we went over stabilization and speed ramping, and today we're going to go over this super cool wheel effect that is playing over here. We're going to have an original clip and then it's going to pull out through a car's wheel and then the rim will slam closed over the top. If you have not watched the previous video that I just talked about, the speed ramping and stabilization, you're going to want to go watch that now, because we will be using speed ramping and stabilization in this clip, in this editing tutorial, and I will not be going over it because it is a bit of a lengthy process and we've already made a whole video on it. So with that being said, just like last time, the clips are still available for download. They're going to be on my website. You can find the link to the clips in the video description. That way you can follow along with exactly what I'm doing. If you want to use your own clips, that's totally fine. But I will help you figure out how to follow along with me exactly. So just to get a quick look for the basically the structure that we're going to be making, this is going to be our final product. So as you see, the clip is of this car. We pull out, and then we pull out seemingly through the wheel, and then it transitions over. So this is a really cool effect. And just to start off, if this is the first video you're watching of mine, I try to dive into exactly how to use the tools that we're using, not just telling you click here, click there. So sometimes I do end up being a little bit long-winded, maybe a little bit redundant, but I try to give you all the information that I can so that this can help you when you're filming and editing in the future. You'll be able to see what we did in this video and think of an effect that you want to do and go ahead and create that using these tools, rather than me just saying, oh, here's how you make this car transition effect, click, 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 done. So sometimes the videos can be a little bit longer, but I do encourage that you stick around and watch the whole thing because it will be very helpful explaining why we do stuff. With that being said, we will also be going over how to set yourself up for success with these clips, meaning when you're filming, keeping it in the forefront of your mind what effects that you want to do so that you go specifically film shots that will help you do those effects, rather than shooting willy-nilly, coming home and struggling to sort through clips, finding something good. You'll actually have known that you were going to do this effect beforehand, and it really helps out in your editing. So if you're following along with my clips, what you're going to want to use is C2695, that's this clip here, and then C2708, that's going to be our wheel clip here. Now for the first clip, that just has stabilization and speed ramping on it. I've already gone ahead and done that off camera, and I will not be showing you how to do that because again, we have a whole video on that. But for this clip here, all that it has right now is just stabilization, and I stabilized right here in the center of the clip. And we're going to pick up here. So step one is on this wheel clip, you need your clip to start zoomed in so far that the rim takes up the entire shot. And that's because if you were to say start the clip here, you'd get to right here when you want to transition, and all of a sudden the edges of this car would just pop up on screen. And it would not give you the effect that you pulled out through the wheel. So that is a very important step, that you start fully zoomed in. Here it's going to happen so fast. We're mostly zoomed in. Just this little corner is going to pop up and it's going to be, it'll be totally fine. Next, I did not supply an audio clip. And that's just because I'm licensed to use this one from Epidemic Sound. I just pay for a monthly subscription. However, I can't go ahead and give these out to you because you would not be licensed to use them if you don't pay for them regularly. But you can get these a sound clip from anywhere. Next, what a lot of people have asked on the last video is how am I timing these effects to the beat drops? And that's super easy. All that I do here is I go to a beat drop, something like that, and I'll usually go one frame before, select my audio clip, and I'll just add a marker. And by adding the marker, what that does is it allows your timeline to actually snap onto the beat drop. So now when I'm doing an effect, I can actually make sure that it lands on the beat. And then I'm going to add another one for the end of my clip right here. So this is how long I'm going to have my effect go for. So let's get into making this effect. Your first clip, you're going to want to come past your beat drop. So when the beat hits, I want my wheel to be in place. That's when it actually, fully comes into frame in front of the car. And you want to have your clip extend at least a little bit past that so that it continues through the entire time that it's through this clip. So there we are. We have step 1 done. And now next, we're going to take this clip and we need to add a speed ramp to it. Now, this is the first step that you have to do because you do not want to do any of the rest of the steps that we're doing before you speed ramp this clip because all of the masking will not line up. So I'm first going to put this clip into place because you want the beginning of your clip when you're pulling out from the car to be a good ways before your actual transition. That way you'll actually have time where you're viewing your first clip through the car's wheel. So I'm going to drop it, bring it forward about that far. And now what I'm going to do is do a new fusion clip because that clip there in the fusion tab had my stabilization on it. I'm going to open up a new fusion clip. We're going to come to the fusion tab and we're going to give ourselves a time stretcher, which is the same way that we did the speed ramping in the previous video. So we're going to grab our time stretcher, have our spline node open. And again, you want to add time stretcher when you're at the first clip of this frame. The first frame of this clip, sorry. Now I'm going to come to the last frame, that's 138. We're going to put that in here now. And we'll have our start and our end point. So this is where these markers that we put in place are really going to help. I want my clip to end right here on this marker that I put in. So the really cool thing is this position of your timeline here is the exact same position as it is here on this clip. So all I need to do is bring the end of my clip to where that marker is, and now my clip will end right here on that marker. So I will have my clip be just as long as that. Now, next step is going to be adding our speed ramp. So I'm just going to do this here and give it about this shape. And what this shape is going to do is start our speed ramp quickly, slow it back down, and speed it back up. I go over this in the last video, but real quick, when the line is more up and down, this line here, this is your clip frames. So we're traveling more clip frames this is your timeline frames. So more clip frames per timeline frame. So to get to this point, we travel about 50 clip frames in 10 frames. So we're going fast. And then from here to say here, we travel maybe 20 clip frames, 60 to 80 in about 30 frames here. So we're a little bit slower than what it was shot in, and then we speed it back up. And what that's going to do is give us that pretty sweet effect there. So we're going to pull out fast, get a good look at the wheel, and then we're going to pull out fast, we'll have a good slow look at the wheel, and then we'll speed back up. So I'm actually going to use this clip here, but sometimes you may have to tweak that speed frame just a little bit more. But this point here is where I'm going to have the wheel smash down, and we're going to have a great frame here for the wheel to come down in the middle of the frame because we'll have a good portion of the car and the wheel will be fully in frame. So I really like the way that this ended up. So next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Alt, click and drag, and that's going to copy this clip. I like to do this whenever I start working with something like this. That way I have a starting point to go back to in case I completely screw this one up and it's irrecoverable. I can't fix anything. I have a starting point to go back to of when it looked good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to time our transition and our drop. So, and to do that, we need to add masking to this clip. So you're going to click your clip and you're going to click the color tab here. And then we're going to come over to this tool here and select our ellipse. And now what we're going to want to do is have our ellipse, resize it until it perfectly covers our wheel. And now definitely take your time here and get it perfect, because this is going to directly determine the quality of this effect. So you want to make sure you take your time. Now, if you overshoot the rim just a little bit, that's better than undershooting the rim, because that will take more tire out. However, it will not leave a silver ring, since this wheel is silver. So that's better than overshooting's better than undershooting here. Now we're going to take this feather in, and I'm probably going to set my feather to 0.3. You don't want a high feather, but you do want just a little bit. That will help kind of mend this effect together. Now that we have our wheel masked out here, we need to track our mask. So we're going to come over here to tracking, and we're going to track both ways. Now, when you're doing something like this with a wheel, and it's just like a circle mask, Davinci does an amazing job at doing it on its own. However, if it did not track properly, you can switch here to frame, and you can manually adjust each frame to make sure that it has tracked better. Now, if you're using something more complicated, say like a window, a headlight, whatever, to do your reveal shot, you may need to do that a little bit more. But usually when doing wheels, Davinci does an amazing job at auto tracking. So we're going to come over here and we're going to right click and we're going to add an alpha output. And before connecting that alpha output, we're going to hold Alt and copy this, because we need this clip twice. We need one clip of just the rim, and we need another clip of everything else, no rim. So we're going to come back to the color tab now and connect our alpha output, and you can see we are left with just a rim. Now we're going to come to the other clip and we're going to select inverse here and do this again. And now you can see we have a clip of no rim. Perfect. So we're going to come back over here and we're going to take this clip of just our rim and we're going to right click it and we're going to do a new compound clip. And now you can name that if you want, or you can just leave it as compound clip. So if you put these two over each other, you'll see nothing. You have the same exact clip. And that's because they're perfectly lined up. Of one's just the wheel and one's just the car. We move the car out of the way again. We want our wheel right here at the beat drop to be right there. So we're going to put our cursor here, and now we're going to add our motion effect to the wheel. So we're going to come over to the Fusion tab, and now you'll see your speed ramp and everything is gone because we created a new compound clip. If it's not gone, that's important. Create a new compound clip. But with our cursor, again, in the spot that we want it to be for the beat drop, we're going to shift space, and we're going to look for a DVE. I absolutely love this tool. This will be one of the most versatile tools that you learn how to use. DVE is really great for adding motion and motion blur and all these effects to anything that you want in your clips. So we're going to add our DVE, and now again at our beat drop here, we're going to keyframe center, and I'm going to keyframe this X rotation here. That's going to be, I'll show you both options, but this is going to be to add a little bit extra flair to your clip. But this means that right here at this position, our wheel will be exactly where we want it at the beat drop. Now we're going to come to the beginning of the clip, and we want the wheel completely out of the way. And the reason being is we want our clip to show through and then have the wheel come in. So you'll see here, there's our effect. But you'll see it looks, something's missing. And that would be motion blur. So we're going to come here, we're going to go to settings with DVE selected, and we're going to add a motion blur and change the quality to 10. And now you'll see, let it render a second. My computer's on the slower side. A little bit better. You know, it actually looks like it's moving into place. If you wanted to speed up how fast that wheel pops into place, super easy. All you would do is come here to the beginning, and you would increase the distance of the wheel from basically how far the wheel would need to travel. And I'll show you that real quick. 1 second. And you can see the wheels coming in a little bit quicker now. And one last effect I'm going to show, and it's what I'm going to actually use for the end here, is I'm going to bring this a little bit closer, probably about there. And I'm going to add at the very end important here, I'm going to make sure that my X rotation is first keyframed at 0. At the very end, so when the beat drops, we're going to add a 360-degree rotation. And what that means is this wheel is going to do a flip on its way in. Now here that might look weird, but when you overlay it with this, now again, I should have mentioned earlier, your clip with your car goes over the clip with the wheel. If you don't do that, be easy to show you here. You can see the wheel the whole time it's coming up, and that's not a really cool effect. It doesn't look like it's covering up the frame. So we're just going to flip these back over. Easy peasy. And I like that a little bit more. If I played with the positioning a little bit more, I bet I could get it where it looks like the wheel is sliding in over the top. And to do that, all I would do is kind of mess with its beginning position. Probably have it come a little bit more from the side and a little higher up. Let it render again. And I'm going to call that good. So one last thing that we are going to need to do to really sell this effect is to add a camera shake when the wheel smashes down on the beat drop. So to do that, we're going to come over here to effects. We're going to go to search. And now people sell tons of plugins for camera shakes and all these things, and they're great. And you know, sometimes it's easier. But here's how to make a really easy camera shake effect that's 100% free. So we're going to look for an adjustment clip. And if you are not familiar with adjustment clips, it's basically just a blank clip that you can add effects to. And that's how you can affect the rest of these clips. So we're going to add an adjustment clip, right click, and we're going to change clip duration. I'm going to switch it to frames, and I'm going to make it 10 frames long. For a beat drop, 10 to 15 frames is usually the sweet spot. We're going to come over here, and we're going to go to our Fusion node on the adjustment clip. We're going to shift spacebar, and we're going to add a camera shake. You want this one here, none of these other ones, this one. We're going to add our camera shake, and we're going to keyframe these first 4 options: X, Y, deviation, rotation, and randomness. We're going to come to our last frame. We're going to keyframe those 4 again, and we're going to set them all to 0. And then lastly, you'll see during this shake effect, it moves the clip around as it should. It's shaking it, but you'll get these borders on your clip because it's shaking your clip around. All you're going to want to do is do edges, mirror. Now you can play with a few different options here, but mirror tends to look the best. And what that's going to do is give you that shake effect. So, and here in probably 10-15 minutes with me yapping, we went ahead and finished this effect. So pretty sweet effect. Totally free to do, which is really cool. It's a really powerful effect to be able to do, without having to pay for any plugins or anything like that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate your guys' support, your likes, your comments, all that sort of thing. As stated earlier, these clips are available on my website. Keeping the website alive for you guys to be able to download these clips, it does cost money. So there is a little button for tips if you guys would like to drop one in. I also have merch on there as well. Anything like that helps me out, helps me keep the website alive for you guys. It's never expected, but it's always appreciated. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.